Hey everyone, this lesson is going to go through hunting in the medieval era. And our title for today is What Can Hunting Attitudes Show About Attitudes to Poor People? And your starter task today is to think about why people hunt. There's some practical reasons you'll be aware of, but also this picture might give you a hint to some other reasons. So please pause the video, do your date, title, and task. Okay, so some ideas you might have come up with are about getting food, about getting clothing, because you can make clothing from animal skin. Leather shoes are made of cowhide. Things with fur are good for like coats and jackets. But you've also got to show off or for status, like this woman here who has shot a giraffe. It's a way of showing off how much money you've got, particularly nowadays. If you go to Africa, you think you can pay about 10 grand to shoot a lion, if that's your kind of thing. But it's the same in the medieval era. If you could hunt the biggest stag, which is a deer with the big antlers, then you were considered a very, very rich and very powerful person. So hunting in the medieval era has got two sides to it. The practical side of, food and warmth, but also showing off people's status. Now, as we know, medieval people can't get their food how we do. There are no department stores and no electricity. So everything would have to be kind of made and used on the day. So you'd probably milk your cow early in the morning, and then you would have turned it into cheese by the afternoon. Medieval people didn't really drink a lot of milk because it went off, so it just wasn't something that appealed to them, funnily enough. So, what could poor people hunt? The official phrasing in law is any beast on common land. That just means shared land. So, in the medieval era and the Elizabethan era, forests are the private property of the monarch, but things like fields is common land. So anyone was allowed to eat off of it, but also graze your sheep, which is one of those, again, strange rules. So poor people can hunt things like rabbits, fish, otters, and pheasants because they all roam in normal places. So go ahead, pause the video. You might want to do a little subheading, what do poor people hunt, and then get down those four things. So rabbits, fish, otters, and pheasants. Make sure you spell pheasants with a H, please. We don't want to be eating peasants, that's not very nice. So for the rich people, they have the same options, but more. So they can also hunt rabbits, fish, otters, and pheasants, but they've also got access to other things. So you've got swans there. Swans are and have always been the private property of the monarch. So even now, you're not allowed to eat a swan, only the queen can. And if you harm one, there are special like swan detectives you have to go and inform, should you ever find yourself in that situation. They can also hunt deer, or male deer are known as stags, and female deer are known as does. And obviously, the bigger the antlers, the kind of better the prize was. And you've also got this weird looking pig thing at the bottom. That's a boar, spelled B-O-A-R, and it is a pig. They do still exist in some places in England today, particularly if you go to the New Forest. They like to dig up all the side of the road, so you'll often see like tusk marks or teeth marks through the soil. But the reason only the rich can hunt the boars and the deers are because they live in the forest, and you have to have special permission in order to hunt there. So again, same thing, subheading, what do the rich people hunt? And then bullet point those animals down. We're now going to look at the Book of St. Albans. Now you'll notice that's spelt a little differently, and again note I say differently, not wrong, because obviously at the time it was correct, but we change how we spell things over time. mostly because of influences of old languages we wouldn't know anymore, like Latin, but new languages that we are familiar with, like French. But this is a really cool book because it's the first known colour book. All of these pages had to be individually drawn and painted. If you remember when we did the illuminated text, when we looked at monks, that's the same technique here. And this is the first recorded one we've got in colour. And it talks of gentleman sports like hunting. And I'm going to go through some of the images with you now, and you need to make a list of equipment used to hunt. And I don't just mean weapons, I mean anything that would be used in a hunt. So we've got a picture here, and there's two things I'd like to draw your attention to. The first is that this person is obviously hunting a hare. It's potentially a woman, we're not sure. Sometimes they did dress similarly, but women did hunt. And you've got here what looks like a peregrine falcon just by the colouring, but it's important to know it's a bird of prey, which I don't know if you probably look out your window, you can see big red birds with a V-shaped wing. Those are red kites, so they're also a bird of prey. And what they would do is they would train these birds to hunt small animals. Because they're really quite cool. I think I showed you a video before of me screaming in terror. If not, you get to see it in year 8. So something to look forward to. So on your bit of paper, you're going to need to get down anything used in a hunt. So you could have it's men and women, and the fact that they used birds of prey. Okay, so similar theme again, but this time they're on horseback. And we'll look at that in a moment. And they also have birds of prey to help them out. Now, fun fact for you, hawks are a type of bird of prey, and only the rich people can breed them. So poor people can own, falcons, kites, whatever they want as long as they can afford it, but only the rich people can breed hawks. And the reason for that is just because they can. Literally, the rich people make the rules, so they said no poor people can have what we've got. And in this one, we've also got servants joining in, particularly if you're rich, the servants would come along on the hunt with you. And dogs. So you have a lot of hunting dogs bred at this time. We've still got some of them today. So our greyhounds and kind of lurchers, they're bred to be fast, so they can track the game, skinny, so they can get through all the forest, and also have really short hair, so they don't tangle in the branches, which, when you think about it, makes sense. So loads of our dog breeds today are developed from this time because of hunting. Now there are two types of hunting you are expected to know. You've got bow and stable hunting. And if you kind of break down the words, you can work out what it involves, because bows are bow and arrows, like archery, and a stable is what you put a horse in. So bow and stable hunting involves being on horseback with bows and arrows. And traditionally, this is for older men because it's calmer and less energetic. You don't have to run everywhere. You're on your horse. It's quite calm. But then you've got at-force hunting, which is for much more active young men, and it involves running down your prey to exhaustion, preferably into a corner, and then eventually killing it. It's very energetic, and yeah, again, a way of just displaying your strength as a young man. So please pause this video and get down those two different types of hunting. So we need to think now about why there are these differences. And again, it's practical as well as being about power. So I'd just like you now in the chat box just to type in any ideas you've got initially. So why is there differences between how the rich people hunt and how the poor people hunt? Okay. So in a moment, on the screen, there will be 5 boxes in blue. And these are all reasons why there was this class divide. So why the rich people hunt certain animals in certain places and the poor people can't. And you need to rank them in order. The biggest reason that rich and poor people hunted differently. You've got a 1485 Act of Parliament, which is a law, made hunting in forests without a licence punishable by death. Forests belong to the monarch, so only they and those they allow to can hunt in them. And bigger prey, like the boar and the deer, meant more specialist equipment, like your longsword and your spear. But that's obviously really expensive, so the poor people can't afford it. And bigger prey actually takes longer to hunt, and poor people do not have that much free time to spend an entire day chasing after a deer. And poor people could even be executed if caught breaking these rules, whereas the rich people would just pay a fine. So that's what you've got to do now. Put yourself in the mindset of a poor person. What do you think is the biggest reason you wouldn't go hunting? And pop it up the top. And then keep going like that in order. Right then, so your final task is going to be about half a page long. So you need to write a letter to a rich person explaining why you should be able to hunt in the forests. So in this video, you need to make it really, really clear that you have no other choice to get food for your family. You need to explain that you're probably starving. 20 to 30% of people in the Elizabethan era are on the edge of starvation. You need to talk about what punishments you face if you try it. The fact that there's no alternative, like there's no benefit system, there's no food banks in the medieval era. It doesn't work like that. So it's probably going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes for this. And don't forget how to write a formal letter. So it's going to be Dear Sir, and you're going to end with yours sincerely. Okay, so to check that we are all on the same page, I'm asking you a question. Why did the rich control hunting when it was the main free way poor people could actually eat? So I'm going to ask you to type this into the chat box for us. This is how we're assessing what you've learned this lesson. So to help you out, you might want to think about, well, you are thinking about why the rich controlled hunting. So is it about resources? Is it about having control? Is it about putting the poor people in their place? Are they genuinely concerned about what's happening with the poor or not? So just type a sentence or two into the chat box, please. And then, of course, don't forget to do your Show My Homework quiz 3 times. Bye!